Okay. So let's take it second, Carolyn. Is it Caroline or Carolyn?
It's Caroline. I was named after Caroline Kinney. I was born in
No way.
I was born in 62. And my father said if it's good enough for the president's daughter, it's good enough for mine. So I was named after Caroline Kennedy, who was two
Okay.
years old in the White House when I was born. So,
I think we're going to include this. All right, girl, smile then.
okay. Awesome. Awesome.
And I do some of this. All right, and then for when I get prepared, I do a little of this. So you feel free to do whatever you like as well. I like to see what people come up with. I think it's really.
I love your name too, Eden.
Oh, thank you.
The Garden of Eden.
Thank you. Do you know how many people in doing this spiritual kind of work go, is that your real name? I'm like, yeah, it
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Eden would just be hello, everybody. So Caroline knows we're going to chat in just a second. So, but I'm going to do introductions and everything. But I would like her to say hello, knowing that she was named after Caroline in the White House. Hello.
Hi, Eden. Thank you so much for having me as your guest. I am so honored. I really am. Thank
Thank
you.
you. And when we get into stuff, uh, I am so grateful to have Caroline on the show because I really started researching her last night and there's so much. So I had to narrow down what we're going to talk about or what my intention is to talk about so we can streamline a little bit. Okay.
Sure.
First, couple things. I don't typically give quotes because through this great awakening, Caroline, I'm sure you can relate. A lot of people that we used to respect and had quotes for, I no longer respect them anymore. So this is from
I
Henry
hear
David.
you.
Yes, this is from Henry David Thoreau. I don't know where he is in all of this, but I love this. Disobedience is the true foundation of liberty. The obedient must be slaves. All right, so we're going to start
Mm.
with that. And
Okay.
then,
Wow. That's a
yes,
powerful quote. I
it is a
never heard
powerful
it
quote.
before.
All right.
Yes.
And then I want to talk about my Meditation Simplified Zoom class, which will be starting March 16th, 23rd, and 30th, 2023, 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. And the reason I'm doing this is I didn't think I'd be teaching beginning kind of meditation classes again yet because of the Great Awakening. I feel that that provides such a foundation, such a possibility for connection to God, connection to all that is. So I'm going into this. I think it's going to be a pretty small class. So I'm going to bring my intuition into it, really helping craft it for people. Again, knowing that meditation is individual for everybody. We will
Yes.
really get down and dirty into things. So please, if you would like to attend, just text me or email me. All my stuff is down here as well. All right. Really interesting. All right, let's go into Caroline. I
Yes.
found her because I had Nyla Newing on. She was going to be on my show,
That's right. That's
and I
right.
wasn't sure how to pronounce her last name, so I did a search and came up on you because you interviewed her
Yes, I did.
before.
Back in 2020. Yes, I
Okay,
discovered her in 2020 when I was doing my research, and it's like, oh, I gotta have her on. Yes.
so I reached out to you, and here you are. All right, let's go through it. So she sent me a bio, but I added some stuff into it because I would like to heavy duty get into things. She's in Pennsylvania,
Yes, in the heart of the Poconos.
in the heart of the
Here
Poconos.
31 years. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
there you go. All right. Her I am statement, which I saw in a video 4 months ago, I'm assuming it's the same thing. She is a sovereign divine being of light. Is that still consistent?
Always. Yes.
Always. She
Always.
awakened herself to oneness in 2007. All right, couple of details. Her dad was a dentist. She grew up in Catholic
Yes.
school, learned she was not to ask questions as a child. For a while, I'm wondering where she is now, but this was the same with me, not really fitting in. How do you feel like you're fitting in now?
No, I don't, but I know my purpose of being here. So that makes everything good when you know
Okay.
your purpose for being.
All right. And with me, girl, you are going to fit in. She
Okay.
divorced as a young mother of two in her 20s. The book Think and Grow Rich really started her on her path to more, including What's the Bleep, Abraham Hicks research, and She just grew. She
Right.
has been producing and hosting Awake to Oneness Radio for 8 years. She's
Yes.
had big time people on her show, including Marion Wilson, Sasha
Williamson.
Stone, Williamson. Thank you.
Sasha's brother of mine. So yes, we are like soul brother and sister. Yes, we're
Right.
very
And he's really big on the Great Awakening as
yes,
well. How
yes.
many interviews would you think you've done at this point?
Oh goodness. About 250, something of that nature.
Wow. Okay. I think you're either 56 or 57 for me. Okay. She was inspired, this is big because we're going to talk about this today, to create her podcast 6 months after her son Kyle transitioned to spirit. Caroline is also the founder of the Kyle Foundation. So Kyle standing for Keep Your Light Expanding, and co-founder of Universal Oneness Alliance. All right, there's more. And we're not even, this is still really small. She has written a chapter in the award-winning book, We Touched Heaven, a collection of experiences that reach beyond the veil. She has been featured in the documentary film Rinaldi, a documentary about instrumental trans communication to the other side. The film was awarded Best Afterlife Research Film in the 2020 Beyond Life Film Festival in Torino, Italy. Is that correct?
Toronto or Torino? I don't know.
I think it's
I
Torino.
don't know. It must be Torino because
Okay.
Toronto is Canada. Okay.
Okay. There
Yes.
you go.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Her work as a podcast host, inspirational speaker. I'm going to get animated in this, lecturer, author, and mentor to people, as well as awakening folks to the truth. So, we're going to talk about the Great Awakening. She is now a contributing journalist for American Media Periscope, contributing several articles a week.
Yes.
Woo. All right. I want to say anything you want to add to that you feel is important, because then I'm going to talk about our intentions for this interview or for
Well,
this discussion.
I'm very excited to be. I'm one of the newest family members of American Media Periscope, and I met the CEO when we were both guests on John Diamond's show. I'm not sure if you're familiar
No.
with him. He has a show on Brighton TV.
Okay.
And I was a guest on John's show twice. And when I was a guest in February, also Chris was a guest and we met, and she's the CEO for AMP. And I have been on the front line for the Truth and Freedom movement from day one. And everything I've been doing is as a volunteer. Like I said,
Okay. So what does day one mean? Because we're going to
day
talk about the
one
Great Awakening too.
day one is before the pandemic. For
Okay.
me, February 2020 is when I saw it coming, and I spoke out about it in February. I did a video about it in February, and I had no idea what was coming in March of 2020.
Whoa.
You know, so that's why I said from pre-day one, I've been on the front line. And everything I've done up until now, I've been doing as a volunteer. Even when I was on the Arise USA tour in the summer of 2021 with Sasha, I was like his right-hand woman, and we became very close friends. But everything I've been doing is kind of as a volunteer, and I keep saying to Higher Self Spirit, I could use a little income doing this. And now, finally, being a writer for AMP, I'm actually bringing in a little bit of income. Actually, doing what I love, which is what I'm here to do.
Okay, yes. Can you tell folks more about AMP? What is their purpose? What are they specifically?
Yeah, basically, they're, like I said, I'm brand new with them, but their truth and freedom is their purpose. There's a new, there's all these new alternative media platforms coming out there, like Brighteon, and AMP is one of them. And so I'm just glad to be on board, and I'm hoping to grow with them. I really do feel it's a good fit. Right now, I'm just writing, I have my own column, and I'm writing 2 articles a week, but I hope to grow into being a producer, and then maybe even having my own show on AMP one time. So eventually. So we can hope, we can dream.
Yes. And I'll have the link to AMP listed as well. All right. This is my intention for what we are more going to talk about. Okay. And Caroline, tell me if you agree with all this. So I wrote these down because I had to really collect my thoughts. I first really want to go into Kyle's death
Okay.
because your son, it's an incredible story. And I listened to it. It's very different than most, because for most people, they will have an event, like a tremendous event like this, and
Right.
that's what wakes them up. You were
Right.
awakened before this occurred, and there's more into that. Then
Yes.
for those listening, Caroline has black skin, so I
Mhm.
do want to talk about that
Brown.
just for a moment, knowing that
Okay.
it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Yet when I, as a white woman, talk about racism and it just being used for separation, people will look at me and go, honey, you're a white woman. You don't know anything about stuff. So I want to quickly touch on Caroline's impression of this, because I saw you in a video about
Yes.
this as well, and
Yes.
you can speak to that. Then I want to talk specifically about the Great Awakening. What prompted you to see more in February? And it was so funny on one of the videos that I watched of you, when Trump and Hillary were running, you stated that you were voting for Bernie Sanders. And I
I
think
did.
I did
Um,
too.
I wrote in, and I was like,
Yes.
can he be a writing candidate? Can a writing candidate actually win? You
Yes.
know?
I
So
did that too, because at the
yes,
time I
yes,
knew that Hillary was not great. I had at that point still no idea of, I will say, the wickedness and the
right.
stuff that they have done. And at the time too, Trump, I was like, which I have soon discovered that none of that is true. And then Bernie Sanders apparently was bought as well. So
Yeah,
it's just all
yeah,
right.
yeah. We've learned a lot in the last
We
3 years.
sure
Yes,
have. All right.
yes.
Can you begin by talking about Kyle and sharing
Sure.
that story? Thank you.
Sure, sure, sure. Like I said, my awakening to the universal truth of oneness, that there is no separation, came in '07. And at that time, Kyle was perfectly healthy. Kyle got ill in 2011, and doctors told me that he wasn't going to live. And even though I recall this very clearly, I'm awake. I know I'm creating this, and nobody's doing anything to me. Nobody's punishing me. God's not up in the clouds saying, you've been bad, so I'm punished. None of that. That's all garbage. Okay. We are sovereign divine beings of life, creating our reality, which I call as a dream. This is a dream of our own creation, and we're creating it. And I knew that when doctors told me that my son wasn't going to live in December. It was December of 2011, around just before Christmas, early part
Okay.
of
And
December.
he was 27. Is that correct?
At that time, he had just turned 27, because he
Okay.
actually went into the hospital on his birthday,
Oh
which
my
was
gosh.
November 24th. He's a thing, and it was Thanksgiving Day that year. He's a Thanksgiving baby, so
Oh,
every 5 years or so, his birthday falls right on Thanksgiving. And that year, 2011, his birthday was right on Thanksgiving, and he had just turned 27. And so what I one doctor said that to me. I mean, I didn't say this to them, but I'm thinking, okay, nope, I am not. I'm not going through this. I am not burying my son. I'm not. I know I'm creating this. I don't blame anybody else. I'll just have to come back and do this again. I wrote a suicide note. I took over-the-counter sleeping pills. That was the strongest I could find, and I was living in the hospital. And I went to the pharmacy and bought a bottle of over-counter sleeping pills. Took the whole bottle, wrote a suicide note. My son is going to bury me. I'm not going to bury
okay. So
myself.
let's go through this for a second. All
Okay.
right. You knew that this
Mhm.
was a creation, that there was no one's fault, yet it was so painful that
Yes.
I, even though I know these things, I can't, I don't want to go through it. All right.
Exactly.
All right. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Yes. I said, this is where I get off the train. Okay. I know there's no escaping whatever. I don't know why I created that
Yeah.
scenario in my life. And I know there's no escaping it. But I'm like, I'm getting off the train here. I'll just have to come back and do this again. And I knew that. I was like, okay, if
Yes.
I commit suicide, I'll have to come back and take, because my higher self, my soul will say, you didn't do what you went to do. So, but I was unconscious for about 2 days. And I remember being one, it's a funny thing. I remember being in the ER and the doctor shaking me to kind of awake, and he was holding one of the pills. So I guess I didn't get all of the pills down. So he's like, "How many of these did you take?" And to me, now this time I'm conscious. I'm fully conscious, thinking that's a stupid question. Didn't say it, but thinking it. That's a stupid question. So I intentionally said one and was back out again. I was completely unconscious again after that. Then the next time I remember waking up, I was in the ICU. They had moved me from the ER to the ICU, and Kyle's doctor was standing at the foot of my bed. And Kyle's doctor said to me, Kyle needs you.
So
So
where's Kyle at this point?
Kyle was still in, because the doctors had asked me, when they said they didn't think he was going to live, they had
Yeah.
asked me to give permission to take him off life support, which I'd never gave that permission.
Okay.
So I'm next of kin. I didn't give that permission. They could not take him off life support. And even when I was unconscious, I think they asked my daughter at the time, because she still, no one gave permission to take Kyle off of life support. So all this time he's still on life support.
In
And
another room at the same
in a,
hospital.
well, different, same hospital, lower. He
Different
was
floors.
in the cardiac ICU. I
Okay.
was in a different ICU. So the doctor, but his doctor, who's a tall Japanese doctor, I'll never forget him, Dr. Tai. I can't, that was his first name because his last name, but I never forget Dr. Tai. Just as cute. He's a baby. He was 26 years old, but like I remember being in the elevator with him. He's 6'5".
Whoa.
I'm 5'2". Okay. And I'm
Wow.
looking up to him, like, how's the air up there? But anyway, he's standing at the foot of my bed saying, Kyle needs you. So I knew from what he had said, Kyle is still here among in this physical realm.
Yeah.
And I'm still thinking to myself, I shouldn't be here. I was like, why am I still here? But there was a very kind nurse's aide that whispered to me, because I kept saying, I don't want to be here. I shouldn't be here. Some things like that. And she whispered to me, she said, don't keep saying that. They will commit you. And I heeded her words.
Oh, jeez.
Just, I said, I heeded her words, and I didn't say it after that. But eventually I recovered. I honestly don't even know what my body went through. I never inquired what my medical condition, I never searched into my medical records or what happened. I
Hmm.
just know eventually, when my vital signs were well enough, they moved me to the top floor, which I guess they had me on 24-hour suicide watch. They allowed me to visit with Kyle briefly every day, with a supervised visit with someone right next to me, an
My
aide right
gosh.
next to me. And I remember the last time I had one of those visits with Kyle, I whispered to him. I got really close to his ear. He's still on life support. And I whispered, I said, Kyle, get better so we can both go home. That night, it was true medical miracle. Kyle pulled himself off life support. He pulled out the ventilator. He pulled out the feeding tube. His vital signs were perfect. Dr. Tai said to me after that it was like he was never even sick. His vital signs were so good. It was such a miracle. So I know he heard me. He heard me say, get better so we could both go home. And a week or so after that, maybe more like 2 weeks, because they did a procedure on him because his heart was weak. And they put this, it's kind of like a defibrillator. So
Yeah.
in case his heart stopped, they did that procedure on him once he got better. And we went home, and we got home December 30th of that year, of 2011. We rang in the new year together. I made a promise to God. I said, God, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know, but I will never, ever, 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 ever stop thanking you for this miracle, for allowing me to bring my son home at that time, because I truly believe I was determined not to come home without my son. And God knew that. My higher self knew that. Kyle knew
Yes.
that.
Yes,
So
indeed.
Kyle said, okay, I can't go. I have to stay for my mom because she has work to do. And she's not going to do the work she came here to do if I leave now.
Mhm.
So he stayed for, it was almost exactly 2.5 years longer because he transitioned on July 1st, 2014. So almost exactly 2.5 years later is when he actually transitioned. And when he actually did transition, I was at complete peace. I was still thanking God because I knew he wasn't going anywhere. I knew it was his soul's time, just like I know every soul comes into this life experience in perfect divine timing, and every soul leaves this life experience in perfect divine timing. Everything is always in perfect divine timing. So I knew he wasn't going. I knew it was his soul's time, and I knew it was a soul plan that he and I made together. So these are the three things I knew. So that's why I was inspired 6 months after his transition to launch Awake to Oneness Radio. I knew the truth of a oneness, the truth that will bring humanity to peace on earth, which is a very simple truth. We are all one. We're all connected. Doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter. You were saying, I have never, my entire life, identified with the color of my skin. Okay, never. And I actually, as a child, I couldn't understand why people did,
Mhm.
because my mom is so fair. She looks like you, but she's not. She's technically, because okay, my mom has Irish, Cherokee Indian, and African
It's a mix.
American. So she's a mix. But my mom was born with blonde hair and blue eyes. Okay, my
Wow.
mom was so fair, and kids would tease me in kindergarten and say, "You're adopted." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And then they would say, "Well, your mom is white." I'm like, "No, she's not. She just light skinned it." that was a five. That was a 5-year old's response. In fact, no, my mother's not white. She's just light skinned it. But
She
I've
just,
never
yeah.
identified. I couldn't understand what is this whole. As a child, I couldn't understand what is this whole obsession with skin color. It's no
Mhm.
different than what color car are you driving now? It's no different. It's a vehicle. And I knew that as a child. Now I know it even more, So,
So let's go. I do have a question. We'll go back to Kyle in a second. In terms
okay.
of Black Lives Matter and
Yes.
what I will call the racism agenda, the transgender agenda, what would you say to all of that?
When I first heard the term Black Lives Matter, and I think it was the summer of 2016, when I first heard it, I cringed. I'm like, what do you mean? All lives matter equally, period. All. Well, I knew when I heard it, it was divisive. The whole the whole purpose of Black Lives Matter is to create racism. The whole purpose of what's that? What they're teaching in school nowadays?
Oh, critical
Critical
race
race,
theory.
critical race theory
Hmm.
is to divide the races.
Critical.
Everything they do is the opposite of what they're saying it's for. We know the 1%, less than 1%, as David Icke says, they have everything that they quote unquote say it's for, it's the opposite.
Mhm.
So yes, I like, nope, nope. And like I said, this is long before 2020 when I first heard that term, Black Lives Matter. Like, all lives matter equally, all lives.
So did you see Candace Owens and Ye have that shirt on
Yes, I
too, that
did.
all lives matter? What do you think about that?
No, that actually, it said they were wearing shirts that said White Lives Matter.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I did see that. I've tried to get in touch with Candace. Hey, Candace, let's have a sit down.
Let's
I've been
talk.
trying to reach out to Candace, but no, they actually were wearing White Lives Matter. So no,
Mhm.
it's
Right.
like, no, that's wrong. All lives
All
matter.
lives matter.
All lives matter equally. Yes.
Their point, I guess, was just to say, hey, we
Yeah.
have darker skin and
Right.
white lives matter. So it's such a nice, wonderful contrast.
Right.
Um, yeah. So for me, I grew up in the deep South. So I used to talk
Okay.
like this.
Okay.
And my parents were involved in the 60s and marches and that sort of
Oh.
thing. So I'm
Mhm.
also not, when we're talking about this, belittling any of the past, but
Right.
right now, in terms of our ascension, in terms of, we got to get rid of all this stuff that divides us, that, again, trying to conquer us and trying to get us
Right.
to think about these things that really don't matter. So thank you
Exactly.
so much for that. Going back to Kyle, when he passed, was it quick this time? Was it?
Actually, no, he was in the hospital the last 3 months of his life.
Oh
He
my
was
gosh.
back on life support the last month because
Mhm,
they had done a bridge. He needed a new heart,
mhm.
and they did a bridge surgery that was supposed to get him to transplant. Now,
Okay.
the bridge surgery went textbook, as they say. It went
Mhm.
perfect, but from complications of that surgery is what led to his passing, which basically, because of blood clots and whatnot, because of the surgery and blood thinners and all of that, I want to say, it's not an aneurysm, embolism. I want to say embolism that burst in his head,
Mhm.
and he was still, and that happened early in June. And I still did not give permission to take him off life. They wanted to take him off life support again
Oh my
after
gracious.
that happened, and I said no. And he was on life support for the whole entire month of June, because it was on the 1st of July where I did give permission. And I gave permission when I knew he was gone, when I knew he was no
Got it.
longer, it was just a body there. He was gone. And the day
How did you know
before,
that? Did you just feel that? Or just you knew
I lived
intuitively?
in his room. I was in his room 24/7.
Oh my gosh.
I remember the day before that, he woke up
Oh,
and couldn't say anything, but he held my hand really tight, almost kind of to say goodbye. He was
oh,
saying goodbye. And because he was unconscious, but he did wake up for a second and held my hand really tight. That night, just looking at the monitors and the numbers, and I knew, it's hard to say how you knew, but I knew.
you just
I
knew.
knew he
No.
was I knew he wasn't there anymore. I
Mhm.
knew he was already gone. And we were at the same hospital, and some of the same people were like, they were some of the same they were all like, we gotta keep an eye on her. It was funny. And so when I knew he was gone, I actually
Oh,
left. It was late at night. I left his room. They had provided me, like you hear the Ronald McDonald House, where
yeah.
they have, it was
Yes.
called a transplant house, where they had a really nice room for me to stay in, but I never stayed in that room. But that night, it was a good 4 blocks away from the
Mhm.
hospital, and it was late at night. And I left his room. I knew he was gone. I left his room. I walked the 4 blocks to the transplant house, and I
Yeah.
stayed in that room that night and got a good night's sleep. And the
Mm.
hospital was calling me and calling me. I knew what they were calling me, and I knew what they wanted to say, ask me. I knew what was going on. And I didn't answer the phone. I just wanted to get some rest. And they finally sent the people manager to knock on my door that morning. They were worried about me. I was fine. I knew what was going on. I knew
Right.
Kyle was gone. I knew that day I would give them permission to take him off life support, and I was at peace. But they were worried about me because they knew what happened 2.5 years. I was like, okay, she gonna do
So
this
was the
again.
tall doctor still there by
No, he
chance?
wasn't
Okay.
there. He wasn't there. Nikki Kyle had the same social worker was there,
Oh, wow.
and a couple of other people, but no, the tall doctor wasn't there. He
Okay. And
wasn't.
I'm sure they remembered you because I'm guessing
Oh,
your
they
situation
remember
was
me.
not typical either.
Right.
All right.
They remembered me.
They
Yeah.
remembered you. All right. Let me ask you from a spiritual angle. Why do you think Kyle had issues or challenges with his heart, knowing all that you
Kyle
know
was
about the
born,
heart?
actually, he was born with a hole in his heart. Kyle was
Why?
born with a hole in his heart that never closed properly. Doctors said, this is a mother's intuition.
Mhm.
He was born with a hole in his heart. Doctors said to me, nothing to worry about, very common. It'll close by the time he's 2 years old. Okay. Kyle played football in high school. So he had lots of physicals, and that hole was never detected, but just what you call a microscopic hole in your heart. If that hole did not close properly,
Mhm.
just him getting a cold, that his heart could get infected. And when he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure when he was 26, in February of 2011 is when he was diagnosed. As soon as he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, doctors like, we don't know what caused this. I knew as a mom, I knew that hole must have not closed
Mhm.
completely, and somehow his heart got infected and got weakened. So when it actually got weakened, and Kyle didn't eat healthy, Kyle was a smoker, none of these
Oh,
things helped,
right.
so but I knew that it was from that from his congenital heart issue is what caused the heart issue with him in his 20s, late 20s. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to add this in there if I may.
Mhm.
I feel intuitively that so much because all you're doing right now is working on the heart.
Yeah.
So interesting the parallel between
Yeah.
those two that essentially his heart died so yours could get bigger. And
Yeah.
I just want to give you this little tidbit because I'm sure some of your guests maybe have said this or other people you're interacting with. I feel he is so excited in what you're doing. I'm seeing this. Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, yes, yes,
And
yes.
he is content like, I'm not just gonna do it once, I'm gonna do it
Right.
again and again and again, like he just got a touchdown or something. He is so excited.
As Kyle.
He's
Yes.
so enamored with you two. Like he knew you would do well, yet it's just like he is kind of shocked at
Yeah.
look at that. And then she did this, and then she did this. So my job right in this moment is to give you that heart from him. And
Well, he's right here. He has
oh,
said,
tell me
oh yeah,
more.
he said to me, he's the co-host of my show. I have his voice.
Yes.
I have his voice on tape. You got to listen to it. I have Kyle's voice on tape from Spirit.
Oh,
I have images of Kyle from Sonia Rinaldi. She gets images of Kyle. Kyle has visited her many times.
oh my
And
gracious.
Suzanne Giesman, who is going to be a guest speaker tonight for one of the IANs. IAN is the International Association of Near-Death Studies.
Mhm.
I was a featured speaker at their conference. I know Suzanne very well. Suzanne Giesman is an evidential medium. Suzanne gifted me a reading on Kyle's birthday in 2016. In that reading, Kyle was trying to speak through the computer. It was a Zoom
Yeah.
meeting. And that whole meeting and that whole session, you could hear this whooshing that I could not hear live. Suzanne was saying,
Whoa.
can't you hear that? I was like, I don't hear a thing. She said, you will hear it on the audio. When you listen to the audio of that session, you're like, how could she not hear that? Only person that could hear it live was Suzanne. And actually, there's a point in there where you actually hear Kyle's voice. So, and
Oh,
he said he's extremely proud of what I'm doing.
yes.
He is the co-host. And
I
yes,
love
yes,
that.
yes, yes, yes. And the thing is, with his heart condition, he had an enlarged heart. And that represents him too,
Oh,
because Kyle was a gentle
yes.
giant. Kyle was 6'2". He played
Whoa.
for a really big guy. And he had a lot, he was a gentle giant with this humongous heart. I'm here.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't see
Okay.
you moving. Can you
There
hear
we
me?
go. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
we're
Now
back.
we're back.
Okay.
You
You
ended
froze
with,
for a second. I guess I
I
froze.
know.
Okay. I guess
I
I
know.
froze for you and you froze for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You were right
Technology.
on
That
big
might have been
heart.
Kyle. That was Kyle.
You know what? Yes.
Yes. Yes, that was Kyle. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So you were talking about big heart.
All right.
Please
Yes.
continue.
Yeah, well, no, I just think it was so apropos that his heart was enlarged because
Hmm.
he had just so much love. And always from the time he was a little boy, he was just full with love. And when he grew up big, he wanted to be big because he wanted to protect all of the people that he loved. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I will give you this nugget too. I when I first started doing my work here in Ohio, so I started in Alabama and
Okay.
then moved here. So I was connected to a group of parents who had lost children. And there was one girl who lost a sister, but it was mostly children.
Hmm.
It didn't matter who I worked with.
Right.
They could not, on some level, accept spiritually that this had happened. So even though we go into deep meditation, they were the hardest group that I had ever worked with. So talking to you,
Mhm.
feeling that within you, you completely stand it. And it's like this, how do I describe it? Letting go and acceptance of letting go. And then in doing that, knowing that there is way more that
Right.
I feel you have let go with
Mhm.
everybody that I've worked with has not been able to do that. So to give you big chops and being
Mhm.
able to do that because it's not easy. Like you said, the first time the go round, it was like, I'm not ready for this. I'm going to commit suicide. And then you were given a second chance to go through it
Right.
much
Yes.
more composed, and knowing
Mm.
that he is here. Because
Yes.
again, it's just a veil. It doesn't, death is
Yeah.
just, it's not really real. So we're going to discover that too.
Life is eternal. And there is
Yes.
a group called Helping Parents Heal. That's
Yeah.
actually, wait, Suzanne Giesman,
Hmm.
the medium I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Someone recommended her to be a guest on my show, and that was in May of 2016. So after she was a guest on my show, I knew that was the medium I wanted to have a reading with. And
Nice.
so she had a very long waiting list. I said, just put me at the end of that waiting list.
Yeah.
But I emailed her the week before Kyle's birthday, and the reason she gifted
Oh,
me a reading on his birthday, she also is a channel. She channels her guides by the name of Sanaya. Sanaya, before she had gotten my email, Sanaya had said, you are going to have a reading for a mom that has a son in spirit on Thanksgiving Day. She got that message loud and clear before she got my email. When she got my email, she knew I was the mom to have that reading with. But she told me about Helping Parents Heal. Helping Parents Heal is very different than many organizations where you have, and I don't like even using the word grief, but bereaved and grief,
mm-hmm.
those
And
words
grief.
don't even go into my vocabulary. But this is a very different group of parents that have children in spirit that know that their children are okay. Yes, Helping Parents Heal.
Okay. I'll
Yes.
put that down in the notes too. That's great. If we can take maybe 5 or 10 minutes, okay, because I want to go ahead and state. So, Caroline is going to be providing a video for our Just Be practice, which
Yes.
the practice can be anything that's inspirational or, just gets your juices flowing. So, we'll be presenting that in just a second. Yet, I really want to go into knowing that you were already awakened into unity consciousness,
Yes.
the great awakening, and before the lockdowns and everything. What prompted you into this, and what now you are just this fierce person who is like me. I can't keep quiet about things. I will not keep quiet about things because things are happening more rapidly, which is,
Right.
and it's exciting. All right, tell
It
me
is.
how, what did you notice? What made you go, what?
Okay. It actually started in 2001. Okay, in 2001, my higher self, this is before my awakening to oneness.
Whoa.
This is before anything. And in 2001, shortly after 9/11, my higher self yelled at me from within
Mhm.
to turn off that news
Oh my gosh.
and never turn it back on. And I was clueless as to why. I
Okay, and
even
nine
said,
eleven was such a, to interrupt you for a second,
yeah,
9/11 was such a prompt for so many people. And of course, I bought into all of it at the time. Okay, so you didn't know why a voice just said,
I
shut
had
that off.
no I was making, I'll never forget the moment it
Yeah,
happened. I was in my bedroom making up my bed. The TV was on. Now, remember, after 9/11, nothing was on the television but news.
but
Okay.
that. Hmm.
This is like a week after 9/11. I'm in my room making up my bed. The TV's on and the news is on. And my higher self from within yelled at me and said, turn off that news and don't ever turn it on again. Those were my
Oh,
exact message I got. And I said aloud, why? Nothing. I got nothing. So I was like, but I was obedient. I walked over to that television. I turned off the news. I have not I have not watched a second of mainstream news since that moment. And I did not know why. I did not get an answer till 11 years later. Now, 11
Wow.
years later, on the anniversary of 9/11, 2012, on the anniversary, Kyle was still here because Kyle didn't pass to 2014, but on the anniversary of 9/11, 2012, my higher self said, now go on YouTube and see what actually happened on that day. I watched 3
Whoa.
documentaries back to back. The first one was Families for 9/11 Truth. Then it was Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. And then the third documentary was Building 7, The Smoking Gun. I saw with my own eyes
Mm.
nothing that the mainstream news said about 9/11 was true. And I had already discovered David Icke, but I was still like, what's he talking about? After I saw those 3 documentaries, I'm like, I get it, David. I'm Crystal. I'm Crystal. So that happened. My true awakening to what's happening, the what the control mechanism of this world.
Mhm.
My awakening to that wasn't until September 9/11, 2012. That was my awakening. And then when in February of 2020, all this, I hear people talking about, oh, this COVID, whatever. I'm like, oh my goodness, the news is at it again. And
Ah.
I make a video in February 2020. Do shut off the news. Stop letting the news put you in a state of fear. I had no idea what they were going to pull in March of
Mhm.
2020. I was saying, just turn off that news. Don't let them put you in a state of fear. And then we saw what happened in March. I was like, okay. I knew everything they were saying was a lie from that minute, but my true awakening to that aspect
My
was
gosh.
September 9/11, 2012. That was my awakening to the real rulers of this world,
All
controllers.
right. So you were ahead of a lot of other people. And in talking about not fitting in, this is another aspect of not fitting in, especially at that time,
Yeah.
because I didn't become like I've always been on spiritual paths or whatever. It wasn't until COVID hit, and my mentor basically said to me, she put a little whisper in my ear. She said, "COVID is the virus is really not about the virus," and that's all she had to say to me for me to go. I picture myself
Yeah.
going, "What?" And then I started going down the rabbit hole and was like, layer and then this layer. And, it all just exploded in my face, if you want to call it that. So you knowing about this for such a long time, I am now one of the things about this podcast that I really enjoy is connecting with so many other like minds across the
Yes.
United States and the world. And I
Yes.
do have my group here, if you want to call it, yet
Right.
knowing now that there are so many more people that are waking up
Yes.
and wanting to connect with them and be friends with them and
Yes.
similar hearts and all of that. So how did you have friends, being in Pennsylvania? That's what how could you did you
I
just
don't
keep
have
things
friends
to
in
yourself?
Pennsylvania. No, I mean, I just, well, the other thing, okay, so I told you about the first time when my higher self yelled at me, which was in
Yes.
2001. My higher self didn't yell at me this time, just said to me, and I got it. In March of 2020, my higher self said, the Great Awakening has begun. And I'm like, okay, we've been hearing in the spiritual realm and spiritual people, we've been hearing about this great awakening for years.
Mhm.
But my higher self is saying now the pandemic, scamdemic, shamdemic, that's what I call it, because it was a plan, it was a
Mhm.
scam, and it's a
Yes.
sham. Okay, that is the greatest blessing to humanity
Yes, it
ever,
is. Mhm.
because it was something needed to wake humanity up. And that was the something. What better to wake humanity up? A fake pandemic. Okay,
Mhm.
that wasn't a real pandemic. It was a fake pandemic.
Right.
So yeah, it was. Yes, that was. It was, and that was the beginning of the Great Awakening. Was the pandemic. So I actually been partying ever since, because humanity is waking up, and I do see. when I think of humanity's awakening, it's twofold, because there's the spiritual awakening, which is very important.
Right.
And then there's awakening to what is really going on in this world. Now, I think a lot of people right now are awakening to, which is great, to what is going on in this world, but they also need to understand who they are as sovereign beings, because the 1% cannot touch us when we know who we are as sovereign beings. All we have to do is say, no, I'm not doing it. That's it.
Yes.
No,
Yes. And this great awakening is about knowing what is going on, yet being able to embrace that, to know that we are all it. We are the good and bad and all of that. And then in terms of spiritually awakening, it is to let these traumas go, to really open up to the power that's within yourself. So I thank you. Can I squeeze you through? Thank you so much for being such a pioneer in this as well. Thank you for all that you do. And again, it is challenging. I don't know what you think about this, but there are so many spiritual people that have no idea this is going on. So it's also challenging because I'm a spiritual person. A whole bunch of my community here sees me as a domestic terrorist. What's wrong with you? And I'm just like, oh, it's all about love. Well, you'll get there at some point. So I'm going to extend love to you. Oh, I think you're frozen again. Frozen.
Okay,
all right.
you're back. You're back. Okay, you're back.
I was on some sort of like, you're gathering us all together and love and the heart. So
but what you were saying, I want to just point out to what you were saying.
Yes.
The other part of being awake is understanding that we are, every single one of us, even the cabal. 2 years ago, I did a thank you song to the cabal because they're the catalyst to our awakening. Like, thank you, Bill Gates. Thank you, Tedros. Thank you, all you guys. Thank you, Fauci. I did. And it's a sincere thank you. I'm going to send you I'm going to send you the link to it. It's a sincere thank you to them because they are the catalyst and they are our shadow side. They are not separate from us. Just like each of us individually have a shadow side. Humanity collectively has a shadow side. And the great thing about it, our shadow side is less than 1%. So it's all good. And when we truly wake up to understand that everybody on the planet, even the sheeple, which I say it lovingly, the people that are asleep and clothed, there's so many people now because the truth is so much in your face.
Yes, it is. And it's going to continue to be.
Right. If you don't see it, you don't want to see it. And and not every soul has decided to wake up in this lifetime, and that's okay. So it's all about having love, being grounded in unconditional love for everyone, no matter where they are on their journey. That's what it's about.
I think that's a great statement to leave with. Do you think, in terms of our the Just Be practice, which is going to be inspirational potential song, I'm wondering, like, that Fauci love that you just gave, maybe
I'll sing you that too. I'll sing you
maybe
that.
okay.
I'll sing you that. Yeah,
so we'll see if I published that, or what was the other one you were gonna?
The other one is unity. Is United We Stand. United We Stand, which I love. This video was directed by Mickey Willis. Well, that's right. Mickey's going to be an upcoming guest on my show. I can't wait. But it's about us. Okay, we know that their weapons are fear and control, and divide and conquer. That are their only two weapons. They want to keep us in a state of fear, and they want us fighting each other. So this United We Stand, which is a beautiful song and a beautiful video, about us coming together, regardless of color, regardless of religion, regardless of anything. We have to come, because it's true. United we stand, divided we fall. And they want to keep us divided. So we have to come together in love and say no more to their lies. No more. We see you. We see you now. And our answer is no more. Yes.
Thank you so much for being here with me today. And when I stop us recording, if you could just hang out for just a moment.
Of course.
Everybody stay tuned. This video is going to be rocking. All right. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank
all
you.
Oh, and I'll have all of her links down. Y'all know the drill.
Just be practice.
United we stand, but divided we fall.
Evil won't stand a chance. We all know that God's in control. All the people of the world are joining hand in hand. 'Cause all of the tyranny brought us back together again. So united we stand.
Trying to divide us brought us closer together. People that normally never, just trying to make the world better. Doctors, ball players, scientists, actors, rabbis, preachers, deacons, pastors, singers and rappers overcoming all their differences. The freedom to live your life regardless what your religion is. Masked up the children, shut down your businesses. Socially distancing didn't stop any sickness. Start listening to each other. Witness what you discover. We all sisters and brothers. You do not get another life to live, so embrace it, don't waste it. Every single struggle that they try to throw at us, we overcame it. Freedom, we had to take it. Matrix, we had to break it. Not the great reset, no, this is the great awakening. Holding on to your sanity won't divide up the family. Muslim, Jew, Christianity, let's get back to humanity.
United we stand, but divided we fall. Evil won't stand a chance. We all know that God's in control. All the people of the world are joining hand in hand. 'Cause all of the tyranny brought us back together again. So united we stand.
They shut down the schools, churches, and temples too. Even if we disagree, every day I'm defending you. Yeah, it's someone else's problem until it's affecting you. All the trillions they send to other countries instead of you. Never bend my knee to man, God is who I'm kneeling to. All the evil in the world, they trying to deceive the youth. They'll never know what it's like just to be me and you. It feel good waking up every morning and being true. Help each other stay afloat, don't let no one lose hope. I don't care your political party or how you vote. I want everyone to be happy with a life full of health. I hope you make enough to find generational wealth. You just gotta keep walking if you going through hell. And it doesn't make you weak if you asking for help. Don't let them tear us apart over nothing again. So let's all join hands, 'cause united we stand.
United we stand, but divided we fall. Evil won't stand a chance. We all know that God's in control. All the people of the world joining hand in hand. 'Cause all of the tyranny brought us back together again. So united we stand.
So cool of you to be here. I went from being off most social media to being on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, True Social, and you might be watching this on YouTube, Rumble, or BitChute. Or you might be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I'm on over 19 directories at this point. So connect, comment, subscribe, like. Oh, and my intention is to have a new episode out Wednesday of each week. Oh, Lordy, more to come.